This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 17-inch.
On this episode, we celebrate the one-year anniversary of Weird Al's Hollywood star with superfan Vikki DeVries.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
So today, episode 17-inch lands on the day after a very special day, the day after August 27th. Dave, I think you are maybe one of two people most suited to talk about why that date is so important.
Yes, August 27th, 2018, for those who don't know, is the day that Weird Al Yankovic got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The whole process was a multi-year process led by Vikki DeVries and myself. So a little bit about Vikki. She's an amazing Weird Al superfan, the mastermind behind Alfest 2009, and her and I have had so many adventures together. We've tour chased together multiple times. We've gone on a pilgrimage to his childhood home and his college hangouts together. We did that tour of the UHF sites in Tulsa together. And of course, we started the Weird Al Star Fund together. And on August 27th, 2018, we got to see all of our hard work pay off as we sat together on Hollywood Boulevard and watched Al receive his well-deserved and overdue star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She's a close personal friend and one of my all-time favorite people. I'm so excited to welcome Vikki to the show. Hi, Vikki.
Hi, guys.
Hey. So when I said, Dave, you're one of two people, Vikki's the other person. So I'm very excited. Both of you are on together. I know, Dave, you're my co-host, but still, it's exciting to have both of you on for such an important thing.
I have to be here because of the contract. That Vikki volunteered to be here, which is really sweet of her.
So, I mean, that day, August 27th, 2018, you know, it's the culmination of so many years, so many countless hours of work by both of you. And, of course, Al, you know, being Al and deserving a star. Now looking at it a year later, just give us some sort of download. What can you tell us just overall? How are you feeling a year later?
I'm feeling really good and relieved. We were beginning to think it would never happen. So, yeah, I'm really happy about it. And it was a great day.
For me, it still feels like I can't believe it happened. You know, I still feel like I was there. You know, it sunk in, like, you know, I was there. I was sitting on Hollywood Boulevard. I danced in front of, 1,500 people. I made a fool of myself. But that whole day, it was just, everything went by like so quickly to me.
Yes.
But like just to bring it all in and just to think back on it, like, wow, did that really happen? Is where I'm still at. I'm glad, I haven't actually been back to the star, so I don't really get to see it because I'm here on the East Coast, and of course the star's out in Hollywood, so I don't get to see it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I know it's there, and whenever someone puts like a picture up on Facebook with them with the star, I'm like, get so excited. I'm like, I can't believe, I just love seeing that. So I cruise through like the close personal friends of Al Facebook group, and I'm kind of looking for people who are posting pictures of themselves with the star. It's still all that. Every time I see that, I get so excited.
So it was, as someone who got to be in attendance at the ceremony, it was just, I mean, it's still unbelievable to me, but the road to that date was what, 15 years? How many years were you guys working on this?
It was a long, long road. It all started in January 2003.
Wow.
Not quite that long ago, but that's when Dave and I met.
Right. So you guys knew each other. It was the first in-person meeting?
We knew each other only on the Weird Al forums.
Okay.
So yeah, Dave came out to LA in 2003 because VH1 was doing a tattoo special, and they wanted to have somebody on there who had tattoos of celebrities. So Dave was the go-to person.
Yeah, so I found out I was coming out to LA, and I don't remember if I posted something or I said something, but somehow Vicky got word that I was coming out to LA, and she was kind enough, even though she had never met me, to take this stranger in who had tattoos, uh, and offered to show me all around LA and Hollywood and everything. And one of the stops that she insisted on showing me was the Hollywood Walk of Fame, because I hadn't ever really seen that before. And it was really kind of cool because I didn't realize how much of an impact that was going to have, just walking down the street, basically. But as you're kind of walking down, like every couple steps, you look down and there's another name that is a celebrity, a star, somebody you recognize. And as I'm walking and as we're walking together, kind of reading the names, we both, I think, kind of came to the realization that how come Al does not have a star? He's at least as worthy as many of the names that we're walking over.
Yes, especially the fictitious ones. That's been a big pet peeve of mine. We'd walk along and Dave would say, Rugrats has a star and Al doesn't? Right. I mean, really.
UHF was already out by the time, Rugrats came around. It's like, come on.
I know.
So we figured it was a big, huge oversight, but we had no idea, at least I had no idea, how stars came to be on Hollywood Boulevard. So I just figured, this is just Hollywood snubbing Weird Al. And we kind of figured, well, we should probably figure out, is there somebody we can talk to or somebody we can somehow tell us the process, what it is to get a celebrity, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
Do you guys know what the process is? I'm curious.
We just went online, and it's all listed there online. You have to apply. You have to nominate someone. And there are various criteria. They have to have been in the business for at least 5 years and do good things in the community and that kind of thing. So you put together this little portfolio nomination package and turn it in, and then a committee meets once a year and goes over the applications, and they choose, I don't know, in between a dozen and 20 people who will get a star that year.
Yeah, and the important thing there is we found out that fans can nominate a celebrity to be a star. So we thought, or at least I thought, it probably has to come from, the record company, or if they're in the movies, from the movie company, or whatever. But once we found out that fans could nominate, we decided this would be a great gift from Weird Al's fans to Weird Al. And at the time, which is a lot of money, but the price was only $15,000. So we thought only $15,000, which I realized is a lot of money, and it was a lot of money in 2003, but it was something we felt was attainable if we kind of, and this was before anything like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of those fundraising sites. So we had to kind of reach out among some fans that we knew and said, do you think that this is a reasonable number? And I think everyone kind of agreed that, yeah, it's something we could probably raise in a couple of years or so.
I'm just thinking back to 2003. The internet was, there wasn't Kickstarter, like you said, but it wasn't what it was today. There was no social media. There was no, there was no real way to rally people. I mean, outside of that forum that you guys were on, it's like, how else are you going to reach out to Al fans? So yeah, you felt it was attainable, only $15,000, but that's a lot of money. I mean, for fans to come up with and to get the trust of fans to give you money, and that you're not just gonna move to Bermuda, you're gotta, that's a big undertaking. And
it was.
So what actually happened? What was the transition from, hey, this would be a good idea, to we're doing it. We're gonna fill out the paperwork. We're gonna raise this money.
Well, once Dave got enough of the fans on the forums to say, yeah, I'd kick in for that, we figured we'd be able to raise the money fairly well. And my husband is a PR person, and he gave us a few pointers on doing things like press releases and that kind of thing, so that we could get the word out, as the internet wasn't what it is today. And then various fans decided to put together fundraising events or fundraising products. There were a couple comedy musicians who did shows, and then the proceeds went to the Star Fund, things like that.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on one of the questions you had asked Ethan about how do the fans trust that they're sending, just random people money on the internet,
right,
and hoping that it goes towards what they're saying.
Right, because this was before PayPal, wasn't it? Or at least an early form of PayPal.
We did. Yeah. We did use PayPal, but we also had a PO box set up where people could send checks or money orders to. But one of the things that Vikki did, because she has a great background as a treasurer, was she set up our own bank account, which was exclusively for the Weird Al Star Fund. So it kind of gave trust to the people who were donating their hard-earned money towards this adventure of ours, to actually kind of put some trust behind it. And of course, the other thing we did is we made sure that Jay Levy, Al's manager, and Al himself were on board and kept up to date with basically everything we were doing. So if anybody had any questions, they could check with Jay Levy, and he would, say everything. Yes, I've talked to these people, and they are. We trust them, to that.
Do you need that $15,000, or did you need that $15,000 before you could submit it, or is it anyone can submit at any time with no money?
No, you didn't need it. They told us if you're submitting a nomination, we are assuming you'll have the money by the time it's due. So they didn't care at all whether we had it.
Okay.
They never checked.
Yeah, so one thing we did, though, in the beginning is until we actually raised that $15,000, we did not submit for, I think, the first 2 or 3 years. We just kind of were in a fundraising mode at that point. So we wanted to make sure that if he did get accepted on his first try for whatever reason, then we would be able to put up that money. And I think I can't remember if we got agreement from Jay Levy on that, or if that was our own decision. But it was something I felt kind of strong about, that we should really have $15,000 or close to $15,000 before we actually submit.
Yes. And he, at one point, it was 2 years, I believe. It was just 2 years. And after 2 years, we had almost enough. So we started putting in the nomination at that point. And not long after we put in the first nomination, Jay Levy said that Al's record label wanted to stick in the rest of the money.
Wow.
And so we politely declined and said we wanted this to just be from the fans if he didn't mind, and he didn't. But that was nice of them to offer.
That is really nice. Yeah.
And then shortly after that, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce decided that $15,000 was not enough to put a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And in 2007, they raised the price to $25,000.
That's almost double, not quite double, but
yeah,
that's quite a lot of difference. So you guys had already submitted, though, at that point.
We submitted every year once we started submitting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And every time this price of the star would go up, though, the fans were right there kicking in more, and we'd end up with another group of new fans who would be kicking in for the first time, and it was great. They've just been wonderful.
I did kind of want to go in order, but since we're talking about it, it started at 15. In 2007, it went up to 25, but it was even more than that when Al finally did get the star.
Yeah, it was 40,000 when he got the star.
Yeah, they seem to keep raising it, because I remember in 2010 they raised it from 25,000 to 30,000, and we're like, okay, here's another 5,000 we need to raise. And then in 2017 they raised it another $10,000 to 40,000, like Vikki said. At that point, I don't know what Vic you were thinking, but I was thinking, all right, this is starting to get a little ridiculous. How much longer do we want to keep doing this?
Did they have a reason? Did they say why they were raising it? Or was it just a frivolous, like, we can raise it? They're going to pay it.
Nope. No, it was always just they just changed the price.
Yeah, I mean, they kept saying things like it would go towards the creation and installation of the star, and maintenance of the current stars that are on the Walk of Fame, security for the star, and the ceremony and things like that. But I think part of it is that they are trying to raise money as a chamber of commerce as well, and get people in the area, and also a majority of the stars raised don't come from individuals or fans.
Right.
Stars, they come from, like I said, the record label, or the big motion picture studio or whatever, which to them, the difference between $15,000 and $40,000 isn't a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it's coming from fans, donating $5-10 at a time, that makes a difference.
It does.
Yes.
So, you sort of touched on this, but did you, was there a point where you guys were like, we started this in 2003, and, before it was announced in 2017, was there a period where you're just like, do we need to give this up? Or was that never a possibility?
It was never a possibility in my mind. There were a couple of low points over the 15 years where, I'd be talking to Dave and he'd say, I just don't even care anymore. It went on and on. So it was really hard to take in that way.
Yeah. And part of the frustration of why I said I don't really care anymore is that how much of a black box this whole process was, as far as you would submit something to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They would go through whatever they went through to decide on their 15 to 20 nominees that year, and then they wouldn't tell you anything about why they chose these people or why they didn't choose your nominee.
Right.
And it was frustrating, because then it was like, okay, you didn't get chosen this year, now I have to wait an entire year to submit again. And I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm getting boxed out on a technicality, or if it's just that they really don't feel that, they don't see that Weird Al in the same light that Vikki and I and all of his fans see Weird Al, and say yes, he deserves to be there. So it was frustrating in that point, and it was also just frustrating because there were times when I was like, okay, White and Nerdy just came out. This is like Al's biggest song ever.
Right.
How could they turn him down this year? Or Mandatory Fun came out and it went number one,
right.
On the Billboard charts. There's no comedy record in like 50 years that has done that. How could they turn him down? And then it would just be like, okay, this year's nominees did not include Weird Al Yankovic.
Right.
It's like, so that, to me, that was frustrating, because I strongly felt that, especially seeing some of these names on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and seeing some of the people that they were, or groups that they were picking for in the years that Al wasn't selected, that I don't understand why they're overlooking Weird Al.
Right. And not to say that those people don't deserve it, but it's like, Al has had a very popular career and very big influence for so many years. It's, it's not like, it's not like when the, Mandatory Fun hit, like, oh, this is this new guy. It's like, no, he has had big stuff for decades.
Right. And how many times have people said, yes, Weird Al is an influence and Weird Al is wonderful and all that. And how many other of these stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame have a podcast dedicated
That's
to them?
true. That is very true.
There you go.
So I don't know if you guys have an answer to this. Do you know, were you the first people to ever nominate Al, or had he been nominated for the star in the past?
I believe he was nominated either by his record label or just by his management once before.
Okay.
And I was told, now this is secondhand, so I don't know if I should even say it, but I was told that they had to pay the fee up front in those days, and it ended up being non-refundable. It was $10,000 at the time, I think. But
wow.
That's a rumor.
Okay. Can't confirm nor deny. Wow. Okay. So, but you're the ones who made it happen. you made it happen consistently. You raised the money. It came from the fans. It was, like you said, it's a gift to Al, and obviously it happened because the star is there.
Yes.
That's why we're talking about it. But the road from day one. What is the day? What was the official launch? Do you know when? Was there an official like ribbon cutting? We're starting.
I would call day one being the day that Al signed the paper authorizing us to do it, wouldn't you, Dave? Because that's what made it official, because we were required to get his permission.
Yeah, and that was June 20th, 2003. We saw Weird Al in Kelseyville, California.
We went on a tour chase.
Yes, it was part of one of our tour chases, one of our many tour chases that Vikki and I did. We did get the okay from Jay Levy and Al, but to make it official, we needed both, or I think we just needed Weird Al's signature, but we ended up getting Jay's permission and Al's permission just to be safe. And we ended up getting Al to sign it in person.
And that was fun to see him sign as, Alfred Yankovic.
I was going to ask that.
It wasn't the usual autograph, Weird Al Yankovic. It was his real name. So that was cool to see.
And I kind of consider that we didn't really officially launch, though, until July 27, 2003. That's kind of when we kind of told it. We had everything in place, and then we just wanted to make sure we had everything really set up, like the website and all that. And then And we wanted to, of course, for obvious reasons, make it a 27. So
of course.
June 27th probably would have been a little too soon, considering we were still getting over our Al-induced haze of the tour chasing. So I think we decided on July 27th as our official launch date.
Imagine if you guys did, though, like give yourself another month and decide on August 27th, and then it would have that would have been pretty crazy. If it was exactly 15 years to the day, or 15 years, because 2018. Yeah, so that could have been cool. So maybe if you do one thing differently, maybe that's it.
But there was a lot of thought that actually went into that date of August 27th. So,
well, I guess we'll get to that. I want to talk about, so it officially launched July 27th, as you said, 2003. And I mean, what was the pitch? Was it just like, hey, come all, give us your money? I'm sure more eloquent than that, but
more or less, yes. No, but really, we had talked kind of to a lot of the bigger Weird Al fans about this, so we knew people would be on board. So I think that at this point, it was really more of a formality or launch than it really was fact that we're springing this idea on people for the first time.
It was the worst kept secret. Everyone knew it was coming, but it was finally out. So, I mean, day one, did you get donations, or did it really take a while for it to start rolling in?
They started trickling in immediately.
It's amazing.
And they just kept on coming. It was amazing. I was surprised how well the Star Fund did. I mean, and we got a few, not a ton, but we got a few really large contributions over the first few years.
Yes. That
really surprised us. That it was nice that some of Al's big fans were in a position to donate large amounts of money.
Because another thing to remember is that this was not like a charity as much as we wanted to try to set it up as a charity. This was like a legitimate business that we had set up. Okay. So the people that were donating their money weren't getting like anything like a tax break in return. They were just basically giving us money and is getting basically nothing in return for it, other than the satisfaction of knowing that they were donating towards this cause to eventually get Al a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So it was kind of this money
chance to get Al.
Yeah, the chance to get out.
Exactly.
So this money wasn't coming out of their, charitable donation, bucket. This was coming out of their kind of their entertainment bucket. So,
Right.
Somebody may have said, I don't know what, how people decided how much to donate or why, but the way I kind of thought about it is like maybe somebody this week said, what, I'm not going to go out to dinner tonight. Instead, I'm going to stay home, and the money I would have spent on dinner, I'm going to donate to the Star Fund, or I'm not going to buy that CD, or I'm not going to go to the movies, or something like that. So we're really know that people sacrificed a lot just to help out, and we really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, they did sacrifice a lot, and a lot of the donations were just $1, $5. The dollar amount that was the most common, obviously, was $27.
Yes.
Yeah.
$27.27.
Oh, we got some of those too.
Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That was fun. And a lot of people donated or made things, like made jewelry, little earrings that said 27 on them, and other things that had owl related things on them.
Right.
And soaps and this and that. They would make them and sell them and donate the proceeds. And one fan did a whole cookbook that she sold.
Really?
Which was a really cool cookbook that had coleslaw recipe from Emo Phillips, and
that's amazing.
A few recipes from Al's mom, and it was a really neat thing. And she donated all the proceeds for that to the Star Fund.
And you guys did sell. I remember you had a web store and you sold T-shirts and other things. When did that start? When did you guys come up with that idea?
We started that right away, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there were several of the fans who were graphic artists or just super into that kind of thing, and they would send art over, and it was a Cafe Press account, so they could have that art on a t-shirt or a coffee mug or whatever. It was fun. It was nice because then they got something that they could hold, something tangible.
Right.
A lot of people need something tangible when they're donating to something, and that was nice for that.
Yeah, it was really amazing to me, and I probably shouldn't be surprised at this, but how many of Weird Al's fans kind of just stepped up and just kind of found unique ways to help us raise money, and to donated their time and their kind of expertise in whatever area they were to help us out. I mean, almost immediately all the time we were getting people, hey, I have some artwork that I'm going to donate to you guys that you can sell, or hey, I know this might help you out if I put you in touch with this person, or whatever. So it was really, even though Vikki and I were the two people who were kind of organizing everything, there was a lot of fans who helped us out along the way.
What's kind of mind-blowing to me is that all of this can be happening, yet it took 14, 15 years for the Hollywood to recognize it. I feel like you see the website, you see people are making ornaments and the t-shirts and doing all this stuff. Like, you'd think that maybe that would be their first clue. Like, maybe we're making a mistake by not giving Alice thing. His fans are, devoting so much time, so much effort, their artistic abilities, their hard-earned actual cash to this cause, and we're just gonna not.
You would think. And yet.
So you mentioned, some comedy musicians would do stuff. You guys actually had 2 benefit shows.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about those. I wish I had been at one or both.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One was done in 2006, I think, and it was done by Sexy Joe LaBelle, who is a comedy musician.
Okay.
And he just got in touch with us out of the blue and introduced himself and said that he was a huge Weird Al fan, and he wanted to do a fundraising benefit. And he handled the whole thing. He invited comedy musicians that he knew, and it was a really great show. There were quite a number of really good comedy musicians, and he had it at the Mint in LA.
Cool.
And there was Evan Wexel, Raymond and Scum, Radon, Throwing Toasters, Hard and Firm. That's the first time I'd ever seen Hard and Firm, who is Chris Hardwick and Michael Furman.
Yeah, I mean, Hard and Firm are legendary.
They were awesome.
Not to
They were my
discredit the
favorite
other
part.
folks, but I mean, that's a really great lineup, and I've actually performed with Evan Wixell. I mean, how cool is it to have, you know, these people come together and do this benefit show? And I mean, obviously we can look at Chris Hardwick now, and he is a superstar in his own right. If he doesn't have a star, maybe we should get him a star. And Mike Furman is one of the most talented comedy musicians I've ever heard.
Oh, he's great.
And the fact that, you know, these guys and these other folks are coming together and performing, that's just incredible to me. That is so cool.
It was great. And Joe Lavelle, he also performed. He performed his own music, and then he had everybody sing a couple of either one or two Weird Al songs at the end. He had all the musicians come on stage, and I think they sang maybe Midnight Star. Do you remember, Dave?
It's going back a while. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think
it's
remember
been so long.
I remember that each of the performers at that show did a cover of one of the Weird Al songs.
Yes.
I remember somebody, I don't remember who did what, but I remember somebody did Dare to Be Stupid, and there were a few others that they had each had kind of done their own material, but they also, because it was, you know, benefit for Al, they each decided to do their cover of one of Weird Al's songs, which was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was.
And then you had a second benefit show in 2011.
Yeah, that one was hosted by Tyrone Kahn, and he had Tony Goldmark and Throwing Toasters and Dino Mike, TV's Kyle and Raymond and Scum. That was also great. It was a smaller show, but we had a good time.
Was that one also in LA?
It was I want to say it was in Long Beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So close to LA.
Yeah. Closer to LA than upstate New York. That is awesome.
Yeah, and again, this is just kind of an example of just kind of the out of the box thinking that Al's fans had to help us kind of raise money, because yes, you can only beg for so many donations before people get tired of you and tell you, all right, this is getting old. You can only sell so many T-shirts, you know, before people are like, I have no more room in my closet, I can't buy anything else, you know. So all these other ways that people came up with to help get the word out there. I know that especially when Joe Lavelle did it, he, out of his own pocket, spent money on a press release and did some radio interviews, perhaps, and that kind of thing to get the word out there. And it wasn't for his own benefit, because as you know, we knew all the proceeds from that were going to the Star Fund. So he was donating his time and his own money towards, you know, helping us promote the Star Fund.
Right.
Yes, he was. Yes. And I was just talking to a fan at Weird Al's concert at the Greek Theater. Sid was reminding me that she'd made these poodle hats for the Poodle Hat Tour that she handed out at 5 concerts. So she said she made about 5,000 of them, because she handed out about 1,000. And she said on the back of I'd totally forgotten this, on the back of the poodle, she had printed all the information about the Weird Al Star Fund.
Oh, that's so cool.
So fans did things like that all the time.
So cool.
It's great.
So I guess let's fast forward a little bit. We raised the money, got the nomination. When did you find out that the nomination was accepted?
Okay, so
on June 22nd, 2017, right?
Yes, I won't ever forget that date. So at this point, every year, I guess, that Hollywood Walk of Fame, they kind of do some kind of announcement, and sometimes it's just I think it was just like a press release, but sometimes more recently, they've been kind of doing like something on, you know, a live broadcast on YouTube or something. And I was at the point where I'm like, I'm not going to even bother watching these anymore, because I'm not going to bother, you know, refreshing my browser, waiting for this press release to come out, because every year it's the same thing. I look at it, I get excited. Is his name going to be there this year? Because they won't tell you, whether or not you've been accepted or not. You just kind of got to wait and find out,
Okay.
along with everybody else.
Okay.
And so we would just be, for like, you submit usually, I think we had to submit usually by like the last day in May. And then sometimes like they would announce it like a week, and sometimes they announce it like several weeks later, and sometimes they would announce it a month later. So for that entire, month, I would just be like really nervous and just, all right, every morning I wake up, check, has there been a press release? Has there been a press conference scheduled or anything? And after a couple of years of doing this, I'm like, all right, I can't keep doing this. I'll find out eventually.
Right.
And I hadn't even really, it kind of like, we submitted it, as we always do every year. We submit the application, and then we're like, all right, now we got to wait an undetermined amount of time to find out, okay, Al's going to be looked over again this year,
Right.
type of thing. So I hadn't even really been thinking about it until kind of it happened. And then for me personally, what happened is my wife Jackie texted me and was like, hey, did you hear? Somebody said that Al got accepted this year. I'm trying to confirm it,
Wow.
because somebody had told her, and we're like, well, okay. I forget, like I was kind of driving at the time. So I was like, all right, I got in the car. I kind of saw the text. I'm like, well, I got to get home as soon as possible, So I sped like all the way
Floored
home, floored it just to, and meanwhile, my phone's going, my text is going off on my phone, and I'm not looking at it because I'm driving, but I get home and I got all these text messages. It's true, and all this stuff. And I just remember like going online and like I have to confirm it for myself. And
Right.
I'm like, so I went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame website, and they had their video up on the website, and I watched the video, and as soon as they said Al's name, I really literally jumped up and down, excited, like screaming. I'm all alone in my living room doing this, so I have to take my word for it. But I was so excited. I couldn't believe it actually had happened.
Wow. And how did you find out, Vikki?
I got a phone call from Jay Levy because I hadn't been looking for the press release at all.
Yeah.
I was at work, and he called, and I saw that it was him, so I picked it up even though I shouldn't have.
Right.
And he's telling me the good news, and I'm in a hospital where I can't even talk completely out loud, so I'm having to whisper, and I so badly wanted to run outside and scream, but I had to whisper for that whole conversation, and it was just torture.
Oh my God.
The best torture.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
So Al gets the official, gets selected officially June 22nd, 2017, but at that point you didn't have the $40,000 raised, right?
No, we didn't.
So now it's like a race.
Well, yeah, we kind of went into this because they kept raising the price, and we would, every time they raised the price, we'd like, all right, call on the fans again to raise money. But we hadn't done that. Hadn't really done that for a while because we were again kind of, at least for me, I was kind of in that mode where like, yeah, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. So I don't want people tying up their money for, 15 years,
Right.
Because remember the first people who had donated like 15 years ago.
Right.
And we had been holding on to that money the entire time. I'm thinking, what if I had, that money back, what could have I done with that money?
That's right.
15 years.
Right.
So I felt bad for the people that were donating, and we still, even though we weren't publicly being out there saying, hey, we need money, we were still getting donations pretty regularly. We were just kind of, I guess, maybe I don't want to say we're on hold, but I was kind of like just not really actively promoting that we needed money.
But they raised the price that year, right?
Yeah, they raised the price that year, which up to $40,000. That was again $10,000 that we, because we thought it was $30,000. I think we either hit $30,000 or really close to $30,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were.
And then we found out, it's another $10,000. So I was kind of, how do I break this to the fans that we need another $10,000? I was still kind of trying to formulate how I'm going to do that. And then when the news came out, it kind of remedied itself because everyone was like, you guys need more money.
Right.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to
it
start
was great.
donating again. We're going to start, going back into full, promotion mode and letting everybody we know about it. And actually what was really cool about this is Bermuda stepped up and said, I have all this stuff from my personal collection, which I realize if you guys could sell that, you could raise money and clear and fill up that gap that you need to get to that $40,000.
Right.
So he basically gave us access to many, many items in his collection. It was like, if you think you could sell it, go for it. So
we are so grateful to Bermuda for that.
That is so amazing. I remember some of those things were unbelievable things.
Yeah, what were some of the coolest stuff? I forgot already.
I remember losing. I was probably bidding against you, Dave. Some really cool, one of a kind, like concert posters. I believe there was it a White Stuff CD single? One of those super rare CD singles. Boy, what else was there? Really cool stuff.
So to be clear, for a conflict of interest, I did not bid on any of the items that I put up on, or Bermuda had donated to put up on eBay. So I wanted,
because you would have won.
I didn't want that. I didn't want to fund the entire $10,000 myself. So I didn't think it would be fair that if I bid on it, and I would want people to be like, "Hey, something funny's going on."
Right? They think you're bidding it up, to get more money.
Right? Yeah, right. I think I'd be bidding it. So I made it clear.
We were desperate, Ethan.
I wasn't going to bid on anything.
It must have been killing you.
But it was some of that stuff. Some of the other high ticket items, which I'm thinking of now, were he got drum heads signed by Weird Al and the entire band, which he donated, that were used in concert.
So cool. Which
is really cool. You said there were a lot of different tour posters that he had collected along the way. With Al's image on it.
And some early, I remember there was a real early one, not like an amazingly beautiful screen printed poster, like some dude copied this promoting the show kind of a thing. Really cool early stuff. I wish I had a list in front of me, but there was some stuff where it was like, do I get a second job and bid on this?
Yeah, and like you said, there's another really cool thing. Like you said, he put together, there were several CD singles that were printed but never distributed out towards radio stations. And like you had mentioned, the White Stuff was one of them. And I think I Can't Watch This was the other one.
Yep.
So those were the only people who have access to those are like Weird Al and Bermuda himself. So those are probably one of the rarest items. And he basically gave us a couple sets of those to sell. And he put together a couple packages of, he put together CD singles for all the tracks off the Deep End. And we sold those as a lot. And they're just for collectors, this was you need to buy everything that was going out. It's just so much. He gave some drumsticks, I think, too, that he had autographed. But just the items, and just if there's anything that I said, how about this? He immediately said yes. Just sell. Yes, perfect. He never turned anything down.
That's so amazing.
And we're a lot of older records too.
Wasn't there a Placebo in the mix?
There was a Placebo in the mix, absolutely. Cool. And the other cool thing was that all this stuff did come from either Bermuda's collection or Al's personal collection. Right. So there was that extra little bit for a collector to know that, hey, Bermuda once owned this item now that I own, or Al once owned this item that I own.
Right.
It was really, really kind of cool and really helped to sell a lot of these items.
I was very lucky to be in attendance when the official announcement came that the $40,000 were raised.
Oh, that's right. You did that.
So we were at independently. Dave and I knew each other at this point, but we weren't co-hosts or anything at that point. And we're both at this screening in Rhode Island of UHF with a Q&A with Al.
Yes.
And Dave, for the Q&A, announced it, and it was Al's first time hearing that it was first time anyone was hearing it. It was really, really cool to be in attendance for that. So I was glad to be there.
So a little secret on that. Vikki and I knew we had raised the money a couple of days ahead of that, but we decided that it would be best for Al to hear it in person. So we kind of had kept that secret to ourselves for a couple of days, and then the plan was, well, of course, when you go to these Q&A sessions, you don't know if you're going to get picked to ask a question or not. So the entire time I'm going, what happens if I don't get picked to ask a question? How are we going to break this news to Al? So I was lucky enough to actually get picked. And like you said, I told Al about it live in person while he was up on stage. And it was really cool because the entire theater just applauded.
Yeah,
you wouldn't believe it. And everybody was afterwards was coming up to me saying, thank you for what you did and all that. It was really a cool experience, and I'm glad it went down that way, that Al got to hear it along with the other fans who were there, because really, we always said from the beginning, this star is coming from the fans, all of them.
Absolutely. And so then it was just under a year after that the actual ceremony took place.
Yep.
And how did it land on the 27th of August? Was that a coincidence?
Pure coincidence. That's what Jay Levy said. But a fun one.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth after that between us and Jay Levy, just to try to work out the details. But we always kind of told Al and Jay that you guys we'll get you the star, you guys pick the date, and you guys pick the location.
And they did both ask our advice.
They did
for the date, because they really didn't have anything to promote. Often a star ceremony will be times where they can promote something,
right?
And they didn't have anything to promote at that time, and so all we could think of to suggest was maybe keep it in the summertime, so that people who want to bring their kids, their kids will be out of school,
right?
And that's all we could think of to say.
Yeah, it was really Jay would always say, here's a suggestion, but I will defer to you, because this is really I want to make sure that you guys are representing the fans, and you guys, this is for you guys. Everything he said was always with that in mind, that whatever happens, I don't care. He basically told us flat out, I really don't care if we do it around the time that there's nothing to promote, if that's what works best for the fans. He
Really
flat out
cool.
told us that. So that was really cool. And he always was, and he would tell us, if that works best for the fans, then we're going to do it, and the same thing, he had mentioned to us that, again, how grateful him and Al were for the fans. They wanted to do something for us, which we totally didn't expect or need, but it was really nice of them to offer. And he kind of floated out a few ideas, and we ended up settling on this really cool venue, a party at the Viper Room.
Such a legendary venue. And to back up, before the Viper Room, on the day of the ceremony, those who had donated and were able to make it all the way out to LA, all the way out, in my case, some people maybe lived in LA and it wasn't as big of a trip, but people came from all over the world, the same people who felt in their heart, I'm going to give my money to this because this is a big deal. Of course, wanted to be there when, if possible. We were able to have a really great area to stand, because this does not happen in a theater. This happens on a sidewalk in a busy street in Hollywood.
Yes.
It's not necessarily like the easiest thing to attend. So the fact that there was a standing area for us was amazing, and it really added to the experience.
Yes, it did. And that was the people at the Hollywood Walk of Fame office said they wanted to do that for us because this was a fan-driven campaign, and they thought it would be fair for any of the fans who contributed toward the star to get the best vantage point. So they had us stand in a separate line. They told us where to stand, and they filed everybody in first. So our almost 100 fans who contributed got to be right there in the front. It was great.
the two of you were guests of honor, of course, and you got to sit in the celebrity seats.
We were very lucky, yes.
So, I mean, obviously Dr. Demento was there. Obviously Weird Al was there. And, Al's family and band were there. Some of Al's friends I saw, well, obviously Tom Lennon was there. David Bowie was there. Joel Miller was there. There was a lot of very important people to Al there, including you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, what I always kind of get a kick out is that Jay Levy had reserved our seats for us because he wanted to make sure we were very close to the podium, and he actually hadn't reserved seats for anybody in Al's band, so they ended up sitting further away than we were. So we actually had a closer seats and better vantage point than everybody in Al's band.
Whoops.
Good times.
Oh, it's so funny. So I was there, so I know the sheer intense, amazing experience that it was. But I would love to hear how you guys described it, because you're not just there as a fan, you're not just there as a contributor, you're there as someone, as people who have spent a decade and a half of your life working towards this, and finally it was the day. I would love to hear just your firsthand. Tell us about your experience that day.
It was great, but it was kind of surreal, and it was total overstimulation, so it was just kind of difficult, but it was so exciting, and every second that someone else we recognized filed into that VIP area, we were just dying. It was just so much fun. And it was great to have 100 of you all behind us, too. So we were just surrounded by all of our Al people, and it was so nice. It was just like being with family.
And I think it's important to say there were the VIPs, there were the donors, the 100, but that wasn't it. There were a lot of other people swarming around. Like for blocks, there were people like trying to catch a view and jumping up and down.
Yeah, there were 1,500 people there.
Oh,
And the Walk of Fame lady said they generally will get 600 or so.
Wow.
So they were really surprised.
That is amazing.
Yeah, for me, I had never seen a star ceremony before. I think I just watched one or two on the Walk of Fame website to kind of see what they were all about after Al got accepted.
Yeah.
For those that are broadcast, they're kind of like a fixed camera, so you don't really get to see anybody other than who the speakers are.
Right.
So it's really hard to judge the size of these, and I just assumed that there would be like maybe a couple hundred people there. So it really, to me, like I think Vikki and I got there at about 8:00 in the morning to help track down the fans who were coming out and to make sure that everybody got the wristbands that needed to get them to get into the VIP section. And at that point, there was like already a line forming, and I said, "Oh, that's other than the contributors that to get in." And I was like, "Okay, I guess that's normal. I don't know. It seems like it wasn't until like 11:30 or so that the ceremony happened. So I guess that people will start lining up this early. I don't know. And then by the time, I don't know what time it was, but at one point, one of the Hollywood Walk of Fame people came up to us and was like, "Yeah, we're really kind of getting overwhelmed here. So usually we don't let people into the VIP area yet, but we need to clear some sidewalk space, so we're gonna start letting you guys in early." And then you started looking around, and to me, I started looking around. I would see people across the street, and I would see people down, as far as I could see, and I would see people up in the buildings,
right,
across the street, trying to get the best vantage point. And at some point, it's just like this crowd just kept growing and growing and growing. And again, it's just a testament to how popular Weird Al was. And I hope that at that point, one thing that was going through my mind at that point is I said, I really hope at this point, whoever's made those decisions for those 15 years to say, nope, not Al this year, was saying, "Oh, I regret my decision. I wish we had done this earlier."
Right. So So give us a rundown. I mean, obviously people, I'm sure if they're listening to our podcast, watched the video or were there, but what was the run of the day? You know, they let the people in early, the crowds are forming, you know, the ceremony finally started. Some people from the Hollywood Walk of Fame were talking, but then, of course, Al's special guests were there.
Yes. First there was Dr. Demento, who gave a little history of his time with Al, and then Al's good friend Thomas Lennon also spoke, and he gave such a sweet, heartfelt speech. It really was wonderful, and he was talking about people tell you don't ever meet your heroes, and maybe that's true, but not if your hero is Weird Al Yankovic.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So anyway, it was all very sweet.
That was very sweet. And then, of course, Al himself spoke.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
you go, Dave.
Yeah. So Al Al's speech was actually really funny, and he had a few good jabs in there at the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Which kind of what took you so long, type of things. So I think Al's frustration was the same as Vikki's, and my frustration was for several years about I don't understand why they're turning me down as well. But Al's speech was absolutely hysterical, and I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember that at one point he made me stand up and he made me dance, and he told a little story about me.
Yeah, because he talked about the two of you starting this campaign and raising the money, and everyone was just cheering for you guys. And then, of course, as you said, Dave, he made you stand up, and then he's like, do a dance. And you danced, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was so cool just to take everything in that was going on. It was so hard to kind of focus on just one thing, because it was Al's family was sitting right in front of us. Like I was sitting next to one of Al's cousins. And just like his in-laws were there, his wife, his daughter was there. It's just, and then there's all these we're sitting I don't know if you were sitting next to him or right near him, but Dr. Demento and Tom Lennon were sitting right there, and it was kind of like, oh, all right, there's all these celebrities, and then you kind of look around and you see all these celebrities that are kind of still in the, like, people from the Dr. Demento show, like Sulu, I saw her, and like you said, I saw David Bowie, and I eventually saw Emo Phillips,
right?
And just in general, all these like people who are mean anybody to the Weird Al community was there, including like all these fans that I got to know over the years. Like I think I knew almost everybody of our 100 special guests. I had met them before,
right.
Or a few of them I might have been meeting for the first time, but I definitely knew who they all were. So it was like, and they were sitting like you were standing right behind me, Ethan.
Yeah, I was literally breathing on your head.
So it's like I'm surrounded by all these people that are important to Weird Al, important in the Weird Al fan community, and then to be surrounded and have like 1,500 people just kind of all trying to look at this one event that sprouted out of this idea that was just me and Vikki walking down the street one day, basically, back in 2003, that had that she decided, what, the Walk of Fame really isn't that cool. Let's not go see it. Let's go see, the Pier at Santa Monica or something instead. Then, none of this potentially would have happened, right? So it's just, everything was so overwhelming that day that I don't, like, people ask me, what was it like? I don't know. It was just so overwhelming. There's just so much going on. This happened, and this happened, and then this happened. And it's just like the whole trip is a happy blur to me.
Yeah, and then it was done.
Well, then then they're taking pictures, and of course Al posing a picture with you guys, and then the mayor's there, and they didn't they name it Weird Al Day?
Yeah, it was Weird Al Day.
August 27th. It's Weird Al Day.
And the mayor of Linwood was there, and it was so amazing. It was just such an amazing thing. And then it only got better when we retreated to the Viper Room, and
Yes.
we were treated to a great meal. Steve J and his band played, some amazing music. And then at the end of the night, Al showed up and said hi to everyone. It was so amazing.
Yes, it was.
It was so cool. And you guys knew all the surprises, I'm sure.
Well,
Nope.
yeah, that was the cool thing about it was that, like I said, we talked to Jay Levy, and this was his idea or Al's idea through him, and said, we want to throw a party for the fans who come out, and he gave us a couple options, and I just remember like one of the options being, he was trying to, I don't know if he was trying to not sell it or he just didn't think it was as cool as it was. But one of them was like, oh, yeah, we could do something in the Viper Room and, Steve J's band will come and play. But I don't know. It's going to be kind of dark in there. I don't know if you guys really want to do that. It's in the middle of the day. I'm like, everything about that sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So you're saying we get to go to the Viper Room and we get to see Steve J's band play? Like, yeah. That was so great. And Dr. Demento showed up. I got to meet Dr. Demento finally. It was just so great because you're just surrounded by people who absolutely love Weird Al and have been affected by Weird Al in some way. It's just so cool to be in a room with that many people who just share this same passion and this same love for life. It was so cool to be there, and I made so many friends that day.
I think other than the last time that like a group of Weird Al fans of that caliber got together in an event like that, other than at concerts, was probably Alfest in 2009. Was the last time that a group of fans got together like that. So it was really great to kind of see all of people that. With Facebook and social media, it makes the group people, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm still seeing these people, but not physically seeing them in person.
Right.
But to be in the same room with all these people that I hadn't seen, I've seen, a few of them here and there at concerts or whatever, but, just in general, all together in this one area was just so much fun for me because one of the things I really love about going to concerts and one of the reasons I go to so many concerts is so I get to see, people that, other Weird Al fans and hang out with them.
Yeah.
So just all these people that I hadn't seen, or at least not, I'm like, usually you'll see groups of people, but like you won't see this group of people interacting with this group of people because they're in two different areas of the country or whatever. Right. And also it's like, oh, now all these areas, these people that I know are interacting with each other, and it's so cool. I get to hang out with people that I normally don't get to hang out with together, and it was just everything about that was so amazing.
There's a very cool camaraderie there with Al fans. It's a lot of fun.
I loved when Steve J first took the stage before they started performing, and he just took a second to look out at the crowd, and he goes, I recognize every single person in the audience. It's so funny. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is the location. Is that like a random thing, or do you have a say in where it goes? How did that get decided?
They allow you to suggest an address for it. So Jay Levy said that he was working with them about that. They had a few places in mind. We really didn't expect anything super great. I mean, I realized that Weird Al is a huge star to us, but I just thought, oh, they'll just put him down the street. I don't know. But Jay Levy came back and said that they got 6914 Hollywood Boulevard. That's right across the street from the Chinese Theater. So we thought that was primo real estate.
Yeah.
It was great, a great area there. So it worked out.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure what to expect as far as the location. I kind of was along the same lines with Vikki said. I figured they'll stick them somewhere on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It might not be, in a prime location, but Jay Levy really fought hard to get that spot. And I really can't think of a much better spot than, if you think of Hollywood Boulevard, the first thing you think of is that Chinese Theater.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The Chinese Theater, right? So, just the fact that the pedestrian traffic in that area is really high, and just having having Al's star there, where like literally thousands of people are walking over it like every day, and looking down and seeing his name there is just so rewarding to, this whole process. It's like, yeah, it would have been great if he was anywhere on the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
Right.
but just that he's in this location, which is probably like, prime real estate on Hollywood Boulevard, that like any celebrity would love to have a star in that location. The fact that he is there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, bonus.
It's really great. Yeah.
And it's convenient because it's right near the Hooters. So
I was going to say.
That's really why that was chosen.
Have you gone back to the Star, Vikki?
I've gone back twice.
Okay.
And I shine it up each time I go.
Aw.
As boy, do they get dirty.
Oh, I can imagine.
But yeah, there are a few fans who go down there, and when they do, they shine up the star. And it's kind of funny. His is relatively new, being only a year old, but it still gets pretty darn dirty. But if you look at the other ones that surround it, you see how horribly dirty they get. Disgusting. So I just can't have that.
No. Work too hard.
That's right, doggone it.
Do we know who his neighbors are? His star neighbors?
I do know who his star neighbors are.
Mm-hmm.
His immediate neighbors are in his row, because there's two rows of stars at that point, are I believe it's Barry White and Toshiro Mifune. How do I say that name? Toshiro Mifune.
Wow.
Maybe I don't know who they are.
Very,
And,
yeah. I mean, like, though they obviously deserve stars before Al, right?
Yeah, and in the row next to his like, so his immediate neighbors are Roy Clark and Irving Rice.
Cool. And the star number? I know you know this.
2,643.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Al said in his speech, that he could have had it much earlier, but he specifically wanted the 2,643rd star.
As we know, it's a very important Weird Al number, 2643.
And to head off your follow-up question, before anyone asks, no, we weren't going to wait for 2,700, because that would have been another. We learned that there's only 20 or so stars, so that would be another 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
We weren't waiting that long. So
No deal.
2,643 is the perfect number for this star.
I'm so happy that you were able to join us, Vikki and Dave. The two of you sharing this story. It's such an amazing story, and twists and turns along the way. But it happened.
Thanks.
And
My pleasure.
And, it marks 1 year. And now I guess the question is, what's next?
I liked your answer last time someone asked us that, Dave.
Well, yes. What's next is I'm going to start a campaign to get Weird Al's star removed from the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
He deserves it too much for it to be there. He's too good. He's too good. Guys, thank you so much. This was so much fun, reliving that day and hearing about that whole journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks again to Vikki, and to you, Dave. It was so great getting to talk to both of you and hearing the whole story. I mean, I knew a lot of that stuff, but a lot of it was new to me, and it was just such an amazing, interesting journey and story. So thank you guys both for telling us all about it.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me relive that day. That was one of my favorite days ever. I just absolutely loved it. If you guys want to watch the speech that Al gave at the Star Ceremony, you can do so on the official Weird Al Star Fund website at weirdalstar.com.
Awesome. And of course, you can also check out our bonus Centimeter episodes where we review concerts from the Strings Attached tour. We have fan reactions and more. There's still more coming out every week, so keep checking back. And we have, of course, brand new full episode every Wednesday.
You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at 2000inch, and of course 2000inch.com. Also, we have a Facebook group where our listeners discuss each episode, so please join in the conversation there.
And don't forget, you can always call us at 347-SPATULA, our hotline, which is 347-772-8852, and leave us a message any time of day or night. Don't worry, we don't care if you wake Frank up. We love hearing from our listeners, and we might even play your message on the air.
And of course, we want to thank all of our listeners, and especially those who subscribe. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. It means a lot to us. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you can stream podcasts.
We have so many great guests coming up over the next several weeks, and if you subscribe, that's the only way to ensure you get the episodes the second they are released.
Oh, I can't wait for you guys to hear the next episode.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 17-inch.
Mostly I want to thank two specific fans, Dave Elvis Rossi and Vikki DeVries. Let me tell you a little story about Dave. Dave, I see you. Stand up, Dave. Stand up. Okay, now do a little dance. That was disturbing. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you. Back to the story. One day, back in 2003 AD, Dave Rossi was vacationing here in beautiful Hollywood, California, when he discovered, to his chagrin, to his utter jaw-dropping horror, that his favorite musical recording artist, Weird Al Yankovic, did not have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. From that moment on, Dave's entire world was out of balance. Nothing really made sense to Dave anymore, but he knew that he would have to spend every waking moment of his life in an effort to correct this cruel injustice in the universe. So in the year of our Lord 2005, he took it upon himself to start the Weird Al Star Fund. With the help of trusty treasurer Vikki DeVries, rhymes with cheese, Dave reached out to fans for donations, for money that would go toward the exorbitant star fee, so that in the unlikely event that the application was accepted, I would have a star. Well, as it turns out, their application was not approved that year, and it was also turned down every single year after that for the next 12 years in a row. Don't worry, the story has a happy ending. And during that time, whenever the already exorbitant star fee went up, which it did, a lot, it basically tripled during that time, they would just go out and raise some more money. So I want to sincerely thank all of the generous fans who took out second mortgages on their homes and subsisted on nothing but ramen noodles for years and years, just so I could be standing before you here today. Thank you for your selfless sacrifice. I mean, I guess you could have donated that money to the Red Cross or the American Cancer Society or something, but I think you made the right choice. I do. I think this was an excellent use of your disposable income. Seriously, though, I'm completely overwhelmed by the love and support of the fans. This means so much to me. I've said this in interviews many times over the years. Having my name in a star on a sidewalk, that's cool. That's really nice. Who wouldn't want that? But just knowing that I have the love and support of the fans, people that would go through all this time and effort and money to do something completely crazy like this, that means everything in the world to me.